G'day everyone, this is the Johnny Man here, otherwise known as Noah, and you're watching Tillage Farming here on YouTube. You joined us here today on my Alma Missouri personal save game here in our 4700 sprayer, just putting some herbicide out on the corn here. And in this video we're going to be doing a little bit of talking about Farm Sim 25. Yeah, I know, I'm late to the game, as always. We're going to talk about it. We're going to discuss what I like so far about the footage, and what I really do think, and I really hope that Giants can improve before the next game launches. So, without further ado, let's get into it, and let's take a look at the footage.
All around the world, farmers know farming is an art. Like life, we know it can be hard. And it can be surprising, too. But sometimes it's about being at the right place at the right time. A wise man once said that the best lessons are learned under the wide open sky. I think the same thing can be said about our art. Yeah, it can be messy, but it's always beautiful. So beautiful it can help you see yourself and the world in all new ways. And the art of farming, the soil is the canvas, the seeds are the paint, and the harvest is the masterpiece.
Hey, this is pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty darn good. Is it missing something?
So what you just seen there, that was really, well, the trailer for Farm Sim 25. And yeah, rice is a huge one for that there. And obviously we got J&M in the grain cart, a J&M grain cart, and a John Deere 640 and an S7 header, and, well, rice, and water buffaloes, and I mean, overall, the story that they're driving with the cinematic trailer is a pretty fantastic one. I've got to give them credit where it's due there. Well done to all those involved. But with the first gameplay footage, Giants did say, among other things, that, well, the new Giants editor would have things like fog effects and ground deformation and stuff. I've taken a look at the footage a couple of days ago, and, well, the fog looks fantastic. It looks phenomenal. And Tillage, who made this map that we're currently on, Alma Missouri, Tillage have said that they cannot wait until we get to see what Alma could look like with fog in the morning in FS25 and stuff as well. And like the ripple effects and the river and the new map itself looks really good. But, and this is a huge but, there's some things that I was really hoping to see in FS25 that I'm slightly concerned we may not be able to see. Don't get me wrong, from what the gameplay footage the first gameplay footage we've seen so far with like the rice planter, looks fantastic with the water ripples and stuff. But we have not seen exactly what this ground deformation is going to look like if, say, for example, you're ploughing or cultivating or speed disking or going along with a seeder or a planter. A big thing in Farmcon 22 that a lot of players have been asking for, and this is big in the PC community, is, well, row crop ready. Row crop ready was developed by JMF and a couple of other American modders that came together and decided, well, we've done the calculations, let's see if we can make it so that we can have a planter that will actually follow the rows. As you can see currently, this is a version of the map that I've slightly edited somewhat. You can see currently in this cornfield, it's in straight rows all the way along, despite the fact that when planting this, I went and did headlands and stuff. That's the big problem that we're seeing here at the moment, because if we jump out here, you can see the rows of the corn, they do not match up with the rows that the plants are left behind. Row crop was a huge, massive thing that was a game changer for a lot of people, and I've played around with it too. I even made an edit of Alma Missouri specifically to play around with row crop, but the reason why we're not on here today is because, well, when recording I found that the row crop ready stuff doesn't exactly perform too well on my laptop. But yeah, the idea behind row crop ready was that, well, for corn and for row crop soybeans, you could go along with a row crop planter and it would actually follow the rows all the way around. And that would mean that when you come along with a harvester or a forage harvester, for if you're going to chop up the silage, you'd actually be able to follow the rows. And, well, they were trying to develop a similar thing for grain, like air seeders and stuff as well. Because for those who don't know, certain air seeders that are not disc drills, like the air seeder we have in real life, which are shown off in a couple of videos, specifically the Nelly Creek one, the Pat McMurray bar, for example, that had 13-inch spacings. And that's similar to like how some planters, don't know what happened to the camera there, some planters, they'd have 13-inch rows, and 30-inch row spacings or something along that line, and the snout of the corn front would have to match the spacing of the row to fit between it. It's a similar manner with air seeders and stuff. Like, if you go to an air seeder, like this canola field, for example, again, I've changed some textures around to have the brilliant canola texture by Bullet Bill. You cannot exactly see proper rows at the moment as it stands. However, if we go over to, for example, this wheat field here, you can briefly see it, like further along that edge there. Like if you look extremely close, you can see row there, row there, row there, row there, row there, row there. That's something that with these textures Bullet Bill has gone and done, and it is fantastic. But it's not like that at all in the base game. The base game is just, well, really, it's all over the place. And ideally, with this ground deformation, well, I've got some footage from a video that I tried to explain. Let's pull that up, and you'll see what I mean. I used an example with introducing our John Shearer plough. This is a, well, 5-brake plough, which once upon a time used to be a very common thing in West Australia in particular. Pioneering brands such as Chamberlain and John Shearer and other Australian brands, which most are now
long since defunct and bought by overseas. But basically, this is what I'm talking about. What I would like to see is a different type of plough texture for different types of ploughs. This right here is what we call a disc plough. The reason why it's called a disc plough is because it's got these discs. Now these were really first came about properly, like this one in particular, they first came out in the 1950s and 1960s. Their main function was to really, well, turn over the soil, but still be cheap, efficient, and being able to get through stubble country when it was wet. Because back then in Western Australia, it was a simple case of, well, you'd have wet ground that often got sticky. The old proper furrow ploughs did not like that very much. The disc ploughs basically got later replaced by subsoilers and disc harrows and what have you, and speed tillers. But these days they're mostly used for fire breaks. Why is this important? Well, different ploughs produce different lines behind them. As you can see, this particular one has all these different furrows going round in a circle. If we tried to produce this in FS, it'd be straight line, straight line, straight line, like a hexagonal type formation. And, well, people have already tried to stop that. Back in FS19, there was this movement called multi-terrain angle, where certain modders would implement this system, which basically made a lot more textures so you could have more degrees, allowing you to simulate going around a corner and actually making it look like you were going around a corner. And in FS22, this same practice stayed at the forefront. But the real catalyst lately, particularly towards the end of last year, was a little thing called row crop ready. Where am I going with this? Because it follows these different rows. What I would like to see in the next farm sim is, in addition to disc ploughs or furrow ploughs or chisel ploughs, add a few more textures. And really, I'd love to see the ability to have the rows add up exactly where you drove, so that this one single line runs right along to exactly how you drove it, right up to where the disc is. And the same goes for your spacings. A lot of farmers, especially with air seeders and seed drills and what have you, we have different spacings for different kinds of soil. Some can range up to about 13-inch spacings, and by spacings I mean the inches between the tines, which makes the mark on the ground where the seed goes in. Basically having that there, so that basically having spacings line up to where the rows actually are, basically allows you to see exactly where you planted, what your seed's looking like, what's the depth, and where's the fertilizer coming in as well. Having that built into the game, and I mean row crop ready, but not just for planters, for seed drills as well, and for ploughs, and for all types of tillage equipment. If we can have that in the next farm sim, that would make it absolutely awesome. Because I don't know about you, but I for one am starting to get a little bit tired of seeing my plough go around a corner and it just looking like it went from a 90-degree angle to a 25-degree angle, but like without any round edges or anything. But you get what I mean.
Well, what you basically saw there with the John Shearer plough is that you'd be able to go along and the rows would follow. The same type of thing goes with combine drills and air seeders and normal seed drills that you'd find all over the world. Really, you need to have the crop in rows, and I was really hoping that with this ground deformation stuff, you'd be able to have the wheat, like, go around corners. Like, technically it sort of does that, but at the same time, in farm sim currently, it's just squared off. It doesn't follow the actual drilled rows. Like, if you take a look underneath all this, you'd be able to somewhat see, in a mess of all the screen, you'd be able to see where the air seeder would go. Of course, we've got multi-terrain angle and all that stuff, but with ground deformation, what I was really hoping for, and what I bet you a lot of other people were also hoping for, was that the ground deformation would actually mean that the rows from both a row crop planter or a seed drill or an air seeder or a combine, you'd be able to actually have the crop have like proper ridges. Like similar with the parallax occlusion mapping that you've got for potatoes. You can see here. With the parallax occlusion mapping, you've got like this thing where you follow the ridges. The trouble with the potatoes is, well, same sort of thing. Even if you go along, drive straight along the edge of the field here, the potatoes do not follow the actual way the ridges go. And with the first couple of screenshots of the ploughed field, I and many of others have pointed out that the ploughed field is unfortunately in that same sort of thing where it's unrealistically straight on an extremely curved field. It just does not work like that. You'd at least have to do a couple of headlands if you were going along with like a ripper or a speed disc or something. Something like this diamond disc here. Something like this diamond disc. It'd still leave some form of trail behind it. Even the Kelly chain in real life, you'd still see some form of... Well, with the Kelly chain it's more flat, if anything, but in the same sort of practice, you'd still see the trail left by your seeders and cultivators and stuff. You'd see it go around corners. I'm hoping that it's only the AI fields that have that jaggedly straight line thing instead of it like what we see here, and when you come along with the actual player, you'd be able to have your rows follow where the planter went, like following the turn at the edge of the field. And another thing that we also found out was, well, GPS is now built into the game. Oh yeah, by the way, friend of the channel, Dayluck, at Dayluck Farms Modding and Edits, well, Dayluck along with Ghosty, otherwise known as SDX Farms, went and made a TJ model. And Dayluck shared it to me, and I went and customised it and stuff. So now we basically got Big Blue in Farm Sim, but that's besides the point. My point being is, well, we got GPS built into the game. That is good, that is fantastic. So, well, obviously Farmcon is going to be happening tonight, Australian time. So, fingers crossed, whatever happens at Farmcon, we'll be able to see what goes on there. Hopefully we'll be able to see something along the lines of GPS, whether it be like, is it just a GPS menu like in the bottom right hand corner of the screen like we have here, or if you can actually customize it. So say for example in Big Blue here you got the FM 750 monitor, and then you got like the precision planting and the Kinsey monitor and the Concord monitors, which I pulled from a couple of other tractors, just to put in this one. Like, alright, we've got GPS. Does that mean we can have brands like John Deere Green Star, for example, or Trimble, or Topcon? That's something that I'd be really interested to know and get an answer for. Because if we've got Trimble and stuff, that's brilliant. That means that we can pick and choose what type of GPS system we want to run. Whether we want to run like a Green Star system and put it on a John Deere or a Case, or we can put Trimble on any tractor in the game. Because, well, in real life, for example, our real TJ 375, otherwise known as Big Blue, has Trimble on board with the FM 750 monitor, and our John Deere 7810 spray tractor, which I don't know where it's gone. I'll just tab to it real quick. John Deere 7810 that we've got in the real world. Well, currently in FS22 we've only got the Green Star for it, but if we just switch to the real tractor real quick, you can see that, well, we've got Trimble New Holland monitor on that one, as well as a couple of other monitors and stuff for the Goldacre sprayer. Which brings me to my next point as well. I'll just switch over to Real Johnny Man real quick.
So we're in the cab of this John Deere 7810 here, and as you can see, we've got a different gearbox system compared to the one in Farming Simulator. Now, the one in Farming Simulator originally had the system where if you wanted to put it into drive, you'd have your gear system in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, and then you'd have the ranges, so A, B, C, D, and E, in the top right-hand, above the gears. In the 1.1 update, or 1.2 update of FarmSim 22, they swapped it. And I cannot think for the life of me why they would do that. Because if you think about it, yes, some people who drive these tractors, they would say that, well, you wouldn't exactly shift from 1, 2, 3, 4, then shift another gear 1, 2, 3, 4. Sometimes you'd have people that put it into 1, and then they shift from A, B, C, D, and E. But the way this tractor in particular is set up is we usually use the gear system, so we go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'd shift it back into neutral, and if we wanted a different range, we'd put the clutch pedal in like this, and then shift it to the specific range, and then put the gears 1, 2, 3, 4.
Like, you can really see, like, with the 7810, like, you can see that, well, they set up the gearbox really well. They had it perfected. They had it absolutely perfect in version 1 of FS22. And then, after the first update, they went and changed it so that the ranges were in the gear slot, and this gear slot were in the ranges, and it just did not make sense. Compared that to the 3670, which kept the original system. If we could have, like, a menu or something in the general settings menu where you could select what type of gearbox you wanted to have on that tractor, or which way the gear ratios and stuff were arranged. If we could just have that would be brilliant. And now we get to the most exciting and at the same time very concerning part on my end with FS25. Sheep! In the trailer, we saw motorbikes. We saw a two-wheeler, specifically. All those cattle studs and sheep stud growers and sheep farmers and cattle farmers, you know that almost every single animal farm with, like, cattle or sheep in Australia at some point or another we had some form of motorbike. But, and this is a huge but, to my absolute disappointment, now I know this is work in progress features, in the background of the gameplay footage, we saw an animal pen. And the incredibly annoying part is, the animal pens in FS22, in the base game, like that cattle barn over there and the sheep barn behind there. Currently in Farming Simulator and all the previous Farm Sim versions, the animals were limited to a specific area where they could go. That area, for modding terminology, is called a nav mesh. That nav mesh determines where these animals can go. And, well, that sort of limits the playability because in real life, on many sheep farms and many cattle farms around the world, a lot of the time we do not transport hundreds of sheep or hundreds of cattle at a time from one pasture to another. It just does not work like that. In real life, what we'd use is a side-by-side, and we're going round up the sheep or the cattle, set up the gates to shift them from one pen to another, and we just drive them, whether that be with motorbikes, side-by-sides, utes or pickup trucks, or even on foot. The closest thing we'd have to doing that is the herdsman stick. Now, I love the herdsman stick and all, but it just does not have quite the same feeling as, like, rounding up the sheep, opening the gate, and saying, "Come on sheep, let's go for a walk." If we look at these sheep now, they look at me funny, and they just run to the other corner of the paddock. They would not try and escape this. Now, if we go into the construction menu here, if it will let me, there we go, you can see that thing there? Pasture helper. You can see the blue. This is expandable pastures mod. Now, what this does is basically allows people to build their own pastures. Meaning we can just place one thing down here and then have pasture extensions allowing our animals to go to a certain area that we want them to. This would be a step in the right direction. What we really need as a game changer for the animals is the ability to build our own pastures at the very least. If we cannot herd our animals with a side-by-side or a pickup truck or a motorbike, at the very least, I would be happy with the step in the right direction being the ability to just lay out a section of fence and just plop it down, like placing a water trough and a feed trough in there, and then we can just drive an animal trailer in there and just unload animals from the animal dealership. That's a step in the right direction, because, well, at the rate we're going, what I really would hope for as well is a proper expansion on animals. Currently in Farm Sim 22, we are down in the base game to really 4 or 5 types of animals. Chickens, sheep, horses, cows, and pigs. With the enhanced animal mod, of course, we got rams and bulls and goats and geese and ducks and all that sort of stuff as well. And while that is fantastic, it does not quite have the same feeling. And something that realism modding got perfect in FS19 with their animal breeds was they used, specifically for sheep, breeds that you'd find around the world. So like Merino, Dorper, Dorset, Suffolk, etc., so on and so forth. But in FS22, well, we got the Belthine, Stand Chief, Mountain, Welsh, and that's about it. I don't know about you, but I, for one, have had no knowledge whatsoever of what the hell a Landrance of Beltheme is before I started playing Farm Sim 22. No offense to the Europeans in the audience, but people around the world, if we're gonna use Farm Sim as a way to better help people, educate people on how farmers actually run their farms, because, you know, it's a simulator, it's got the simulator in the title, well, we need breeds from around the world that people would actually have recognition of. And I was half excited, half incredibly disappointed, finding out that the footage of the tractor in FS25 driving past the animal dealer, there's animals appearing in the pens, okay? They had the cattle in pens that you would find in an actual livestock sale yard, like you would in real life. Okay, that's pretty cool. But the sheep. Now, we're just gonna pause that particular clip there, and we're just gonna zoom in. To my absolute dismay, they put the 4 sheep types from FS22 in FS25 in the same pen. I'm not sure about you, but we do not do that in the real world, for one. We actually make sure to keep the breeds separate, especially if ewes and rams were involved. And two, to my absolute dismay, the Landrance of Beltheme has made a comeback instead of the mighty Merino. And that is a massive blow because, well, having Merino be one of, if not the best breed of multi-purpose wool and meat sheep in the world, not having the Merino in FS25 considerably disappoints me. And it also makes me fear that, well, we're just going to have to, that we're going to be stuck with wool magically spawning. Wool magically spawning with no shearing gear whatsoever in the animal pen. Just magically spawns all year round. And as someone who works with sheep on a day-to-day basis, we do not have the magically spawn wool on bales, on pallets, outside of an animal barn or in a pasture. It just does not work like that. It just does not. At least with cows, at least with the dairy barns, the base game dairy barns, it makes sense. Because with the base game Hormone animal barns for cows, like this one for example, if you take a very close look in there, you can see milking robots in there. It makes sense. The cows have a system that makes sense in Farm Sim. But sheep and possibly pigs, as well as horses, they all need a serious overhaul. we can't just have, well, even chickens. Chickens had a system where originally, like way back in FS17, you'd jump into a pen and go and collect the eggs. I liked that feature. Then in FS19, they went the way of the sheep and magically spawned egg boxes. Okay, people didn't exactly like that much either. And now in FS22, over here, well, this is a particular mod that spawns, but yeah, I like the fact that we got egg boxes. I think that's pretty cool. But the crates, just spawning with no actually going into the hen house and collecting stuff. It just ticks me off. I'm a huge realism buff. I think I've made that pretty clear, but I think if FarmSim is going to continue the simulator title, while it's great that they put water buffaloes in, animals need a serious overhaul. Pallet physics need a serious overhaul. Heck, the bales need a serious overhaul. And, well, seeing that animal pen in the background of the rice video makes me slightly concerned that we may be stuck with the old system once again. But we are only a few hours away from Farmcon at the time of recording this, so hopefully, fingers crossed, all shall be revealed. So without further ado, if you've made it to the end of this video, and you've enjoyed it and you want to see more content of me covering FS25 or even just gameplay on Alma Majiri with my stuff in FS22, let me know. Drop a comment down in the comments and let me know, what do you think? Do you think I was on point with this? Do you think my comments are slightly outlandish with this? Let me know. And yeah, until next time, I've been the Johnny Man, you've been my audience, and, well, we'll wait and see what Farmcon brings, and yeah, who knows, I might be able to make another video. Until then, I'm going to get this sprayer going, and happy farming, people!